She skillfully sneaked into the bathroom late at night, connected to her husband's archive-checking video call. But to her shock, just after saying a few words, her face suddenly changed. In a panic, she hastily hung up the phone. Immediately after, her black coworker casually walked into the bathroom. Unsure whether her husband had seen anything, she urgently asked her coworker to drive her back. However, on the way, her husband kept calling nonstop, fearing exposure. Alice could only reject all the calls, but that very action would haunt her for the rest of her life. They then arrived at a gas station, and Alice entered the convenience store to buy a cup of coffee to stay alert. But when she got to the counter to pay, she realized there was no cashier on duty. With no other choice, she placed her money on the counter and prepared to leave. However, as she looked up, she saw that the shelves in front of her were covered in fresh blood. Realizing something was terribly wrong, she quickened her pace, but the next moment, a bullet, fired from an unknown direction, struck her arm. Despite the excruciating pain, she crawled behind the shelves to hide, but another bullet hit her in the head. She screamed, frantically looking around, and noticed a bullet hole in the glass nearby. Realizing she was still in the sniper's range, she immediately dropped to the floor and hid behind a nearby shelf. She then took off her coat and used it to bandage the wound, screaming her coworker's name at the top of her lungs.
John, look at me! Fuck!
Meanwhile, John was sitting in the car, listening to music, completely unaware of her cries for help. Desperate, she fixed her gaze on her phone, lying on the ground. Using her right hand to support her body, she slowly crawled toward the phone. Just as she was about to grab it, another bullet came flying toward her. The killer's shot shattered any remaining hope she had. As she sat helplessly on the floor, not knowing what to do, a man's voice suddenly came from behind the counter. Alice felt like she had found a lifeline. She quickly looked around and realized it was the voice from a walkie-talkie. But the 1 meter distance, with no cover, posed a huge problem. In a desperate attempt to distract the killer, she grabbed 2 bags of chips from the shelf and threw them with all her might. Then, using the same trick, she threw another bag and, in the confusion, snatched the walkie-talkie. She immediately told the voice on the other end that she was being targeted by a sniper. As for the staff, she hadn't seen any, and she begged the man to call the police and help her. While she was describing what had happened, her coworker outside also noticed something strange. Although the car hadn't started, the dashboard indicated low fuel. He crouched down to investigate, only to find that the gas tank had a large hole in it and gas was leaking out. Panicked, he quickly got out of the car and walked toward the convenience store, unknowingly stepping into hell.